Gates, fences, and walls. This is how Israel is turning Palestinian towns into open-air prisons, out of Israeli sight and consciousness.
It created a growing situation of social death, which is a term that was used to describe what happened to Jewish populations in Germany in the 1930s. That is, that your population, the Jewish population of Israel, increasingly has no contact with the people on the other side, and it exists as if they don't exist.
In the past 2 years, Israel has installed around 1,000 gates like this one across the occupied West Bank, altering the way Palestinians experience life and death. This is one of the gates locking in Sinjel, a town north of Ramallah. 2 years ago, Israeli soldiers locked this gate, leaving the residents of Sinjel and 4 other villages with just one entrance, which is also gated. When the Israeli army closes this gate, 35,000 people are shut out from the world. The Israeli army also fenced off Sinjel. This plunged Ahlam Karakra's once popular beauty salon into crisis. She says 3/4 of her customers stopped coming, scared to be trapped in this town turned prison.
I worked so hard and spent so much money to open the salon. Now I have to give it all up and start somewhere else.
Fences and barbed wire now define reality. The owner of this house was afraid to talk on camera. "My caged home is all I have," she said. No city is too large for Israel's caging-in policy. Qalqilia is completely walled off, accessible only through one gate. A soldier can, and often does, lock in the entire city.
It dehumanizes the population because you treat it as a population that has to be controlled. And it dehumanizes the people doing it because they have to think of that population as being lesser than human.
In such a context of dehumanization, the simplest acts of human defiance become resistance. Nour, Odeh, Jazeera, Sinjel, Palestine.
Well, Mohammad Dahleh joins us now. You're a lawyer, Mohammad, founder of Mohammad Dahleh and Associates, and you're in occupied East Jerusalem. For Israel, what is the end goal of this? Fencing off Palestinian towns, controlling, closing access points. What's it for?
End goal is ethnic cleansing. It's easy. When you lock people in very small communities, in prisons, when people are living under this kind of fragmentation, they can't get to work. They can't get the basic rights like education, because they can't get to schools or universities. They can't get sometimes healthcare because they can't get to the clinics or hospitals. They can't get justice because they are not able to get to the courts in the Palestinian cities. People start thinking about leaving their homeland. And that's exactly what Israel wants. At the end of the day, this is a silent way of ethnically cleansing the Palestinians from the West Bank, as it has declared that this was the policy in Gaza when it was so happy about the plan that President Trump suggested at some point of basically, he called it relocation, but it's actually a transfer or ethnically cleansing Gaza. But that's what's happening exactly in the West Bank. And people are actually sometimes immigrating if they can, either whether it's to Jordan or other countries, because this reality is not really a reality that any normal citizen or person can live. This is not viable. It's very harsh. Surveys measure the amount of working hours that Palestinians lose annually because of these gates and blockades and checkpoints at 60 to 70 million working hours every year. The Palestinians in the West Bank, that's the amount of working hours that they lose. And we're not talking about, harming the social fabric, the ability to have families united in one place, the abilities to participate in social occasions, the ability to get to places of worship, especially in East Jerusalem. So this is an ongoing Israeli policy. They use all means and all methods. They use the wall.
And let me jump in for a second, because I think this is interesting. What happens if if a Palestinian wants to fight this in court, maybe even come to you and say, Mr. Dahleh, I'm a resident of Sinjel, or I'm a resident of Kalkilia, or any one of these other cities that is sometimes completely closed in by Israeli soldiers and by this system of fences and gates, and they say, I'd like to take this to court because I think it's illegal. What happens then?
I mean, the only court that the Palestinian can go to and that can do something is an Israeli court. And the Israeli court system hasn't been really responsive to the concerns of the Palestinians, because the army immediately will respond that those measures are for security reasons. And in most of these times, or these cases, they bring what they call privileged evidence, and evidence that we cannot see, that is presented only to the court. And of course, this is a process that is very lengthy and costly. Not every Palestinian can afford hiring a law firm to go for, against each gate or each checkpoint. But again, even when they do that, the success rate is almost zero. Palestinians have lost confidence in the Israeli legal system, which is the Israeli High Court. And not only Palestinians, even Israeli human rights organizations also have lost hope. One of the leading Israeli human rights organization, B'Tselem, a long time ago decided that using the Israeli legal system is actually whitewashing, and that there is no point in doing that, because the Israeli legal system has become part of the apartheid system that is actually controlling the lives of millions of Palestinians in the occupied territory.
So no legal recourse under Israeli law. Meanwhile, we know what international law says about this. It's illegal. We were reminded of all of this. Everything we just described, Israeli presence in the occupied West Bank, all of it is illegal, and we were reminded of this by the International Court of Justice.
Yeah, in 2024, the International Court of Justice has issued that the entire system that the Israeli occupation forces has put in place has become illegal. Occupation can occur under international law due to wars. And actually, international law regulates the situation of occupation. So the occupation by itself is not necessarily illegal. But what Israel turned the occupation situation in the West Bank, it turned it into an illegal situation under international law. And that's why the highest judicial instance, the highest judicial body in the world, has decided that this occupation has become totally illegal under international humanitarian law and under international law, and therefore it requested that the Israeli occupation, or that the Israeli government ends this occupation within a very short period of time. And it also requested that the international community does whatever is possible to end that occupation. But as you know, this is not happening, and Palestinians are still suffering because of a combination actually of occupation, apartheid system, Jewish supremacy, and ethnic cleansing policies. It's a reality that is really very harsh. And when Palestinians resist against this type of reality, they are immediately labeled as terrorists.
Mohammad Dahleh of Mohammad Dahleh and Associates, thank you very much for joining us on Al Jazeera.
Thank you very much.
Don't miss out and get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.